Today's mindful moment. Ever think about like how a kid facing bullies could win a Nobel Peace Prize? Wild, right? Today we're diving into Maria Ressa's memoir. It's called How to Stand Up to a Dictator, to see how that actually happened. It's not just about journalism, though. Not just the Philippines. It's about how technology, like all of it, has become this whole new, like, battleground for truth and democracy everywhere.
It really is like a superhero origin story. You see these early things shaping her like into this incredible person who could stand up to anything.
Okay, so, like, unpack that for me. We're starting with her childhood.
Right.
She moved from the Philippines to the U.S. when she was 6, dealt with bullies. And that's where she first kind of figured out, like, speaking up mattered.
Yeah, absolutely. She actually points out 3 lessons from back then. Making the choice to learn, embracing fear, and standing up to bullies. Not just like, sayings. They become like these rules she lives by.
So hold on. It's not just about being brave. It's about choosing to learn and, like, using fear to your advantage. That's a pretty big idea.
Right. And she's really clear about this. Silence, it equals complicity. You see that idea throughout her whole career. If you're not pushing back, you're part of the problem.
Makes me think about her career.
Right.
From Princeton, she goes to CNN, covering coups, terrorism, all this crazy, intense stuff.
Yeah.
Must have been like a crash course in handling pressure.
It's more than that. Think about the skills she's learning. Staying calm when everything's going crazy, boiling down these like super complicated situations, and always pushing for the truth. These are like superpowers she'll need later on.
But before CNN, there's this period, right? She works with Lazaro at Probe, back in the Philippines. This feels like where her ideas about journalism really, like, solidify.
Exactly. Lazaro was all about integrity, like never wavering from the facts. This mentorship, it really shaped Ressa's understanding of how powerful good journalism can be, how it can force people to be accountable.
Okay, so we've got this, like, foundation, courage, commitment to truth. Then comes Facebook. 2005, Ressa goes back to the Philippines to lead ABS-CBN News. And at first, she's optimistic about Facebook. She even teaches students how to use social media for good. It's kind of almost sad knowing what's coming next.
It really is. But there are these like cracks showing already. She talks about the rise of online fraud in the Philippines, the huge fandom around this thing called the Aldab phenomenon. These were early hints of how easily online spaces could be like twisted.
Wait, Aldab. Remind me what that was.
It was this super popular love team in Filipino media. What matters here is their fans, mostly teenagers. They showed how powerful online mobilization could be, how fast things could go viral. It was like foreshadowing how that energy could be used for politics.
And then, bam, Rodrigo Duterte. He wins the presidency in 2016.
Yeah.
And his whole campaign, it's built on this wave of online disinformation, promising to get rid of crime through violence. That's where things get really dark.
And that's where Ressa and Rappler, the news website she co-founded, are right in the middle of it. Rappler was all about using tech for good, for empowering people.
Wow.
Suddenly, they're seeing that same tech weaponized against them.
And it's not just, like, threats, right? They see Facebook's algorithms being messed with.
Yeah.
To amplify all this pro-Duterte stuff, there's this one example. They dig up this old article about a man with a bomb, and they twist it to justify martial law. Chilling.
It's like classic disinformation. Take something out of context, change it, blast it out through social media. You create this atmosphere of fear, and then you can justify anything.
This is where I get why those early lessons were so huge for Ressa. She's facing a dictator, this tidal wave of lies, and she chooses to fight.
And that takes some serious guts. Ressa becomes this target. Online attacks, libel suits. The government is literally trying to shut Rappler down. It would have been so much easier to just quit, but she doesn't.
This is that embracing fear thing, right? She's not pretending the danger isn't there. She's just refusing to let it stop her.
Exactly. And here's where her global experience comes in. She starts connecting what's happening in the Philippines to the bigger picture. Cambridge Analytica, Brexit, Trump's election. She realizes this isn't just a local problem. It's a global attack on truth and democracy.
So she's like this canary in the coal mine, seeing firsthand how technology can be used to undermine democracy. But she doesn't just watch it happen. She fights back.
And this is where things get even more interesting. She meets with Facebook execs, trying to warn them about how dangerous their platform is. But they don't listen.
Hold on. So she goes directly to them, tries to get them to take responsibility, and they ignore her.
It's frustrating, right? But it shows you the power dynamics here. These tech companies, they're so huge, they feel untouchable.
But Ressa doesn't back down. This is when Amal Clooney comes in, yeah. She becomes Ressa's lawyer. And they team up to expose this state-sponsored online hate.
Smart move. Clooney brings her own expertise, international law, and this huge platform to the fight. She makes Ressa's voice heard worldwide.
It shows how important collaboration is in this, right? Like, one person can only do so much.
Totally. And Ressa gets that. She helped start the hashtag Hold the Line Coalition to protect journalists and the hashtag FactsFirstPH initiative in the Philippines, bringing together news outlets, activists, researchers, all united against disinformation.
So she's not just fighting back, she's building a movement.
Exactly. And she's doing all of this while facing threats, legal battles, this constant online hate. It's crazy how much courage that takes.
Okay, so we've got this foundation of courage, this absolute commitment to truth. And now she's building this global network to fight back. But it's not over, right?
Not even close. So we left off with Maria Ressa facing this really huge challenge. Bongbong Marcos Jr., the son of the dictator, he just won the election. And it feels like everything she's fought for is kind of up in the air.
You said earlier that even before Duterte, Ressa was seeing these warning signs about how tech could be misused. What was she noticing?
She was really worried about how technology was changing our brains, making us easier to manipulate. Remember, this is the early 2010s. Smartphones are everywhere. Social media is blowing up.
So it's not just the content itself, right? It's how the technology is changing how we act.
Exactly. She talks about how these platforms are designed to keep us hooked. They trigger those dopamine receptors, you know. They feed us stuff that just confirms what we already believe. And that creates these echo chambers where people are totally cut off from other viewpoints.
This is making me think about those early examples, like that Al-Dub phenomenon. It wasn't bad, really. But it showed how fast things could spread, how easy it was to mess with emotions online.
Right. And Ressa saw that same energy, that same potential for quick mobilization, and she knew it could be used for political stuff. It's not an accident that Duterte's rise happened at the same time social media exploded in the Philippines.
So it's like this perfect storm is brewing. A leader, kind of charismatic, but with this authoritarian side, a population that's online all the time and easy to manipulate, and these social media platforms, they're built to spread disinformation.
And right into this mess walks Rappler, trying to use tech for good, for empowering citizens, for holding those in power accountable. But they figure out pretty quickly they're way outmatched.
Let's get into some specific examples. How is disinformation actually used against Ressa and Rappler? You mentioned that fake article, the one about the man with the bomb.
That's just one. They were constantly dealing with these swarms of fake accounts, coordinated attacks, images and videos that were totally doctored. It was this fire hose of lies and hate designed to overwhelm them, to confuse everyone, to make them look bad.
I'm trying to understand how they were able to manipulate Facebook's algorithms to spread this stuff. Can you break that down a bit more?
Sure. At its heart, an algorithm is just a set of instructions. It's like a recipe, but for a computer. On social media, these algorithms are supposed to promote engagement, to show you things they think you'll like, things you'll share, things you'll comment on.
Okay, that makes sense. They want to keep you on the platform.
Exactly. But the problem is, these algorithms can be tricked by using fake accounts, click farms, and just tons of coordinated sharing. These pro-Duterte groups could make their propaganda seem way more popular than it actually was.
So it's like they're creating this fake image of popularity, making it look like way more people support Duterte than actually do.
Exactly. And Facebook's algorithms, they're made to push whatever is trending. So they'd push this stuff to even more people, creating this feedback loop of disinformation.
That's wild. It's like this weaponized echo chamber.
And it had real consequences. It changed public opinion. It scared critics into being quiet. It created this whole climate of fear where people were afraid to speak up.
And Ressa, she became a target herself.
Oh, absolutely. She was hit with this constant barrage of hate online, accused of being a traitor, a criminal, a foreign agent. The attacks were so vicious, so personal, all designed to shut her up.
It's hard to imagine going through something like that. What kept her going?
Her courage, for sure. Her belief that the truth matters and this deep sense of duty to her country. She knew if she gave up, if she stayed quiet, it would just make those spreading the disinformation stronger.
So she makes the decision to fight back. What did that look like?
It's a multi-pronged approach. First, Rappler doubles down on their investigative journalism, exposing the lies, the corruption, the human rights abuses. They're putting the truth out there, even though they know it'll make them a target.
It's like they're trying to be heard over a hurricane.
And it's tiring, demoralizing, dangerous. But they keep going. Second, they start trying to teach people about disinformation,
Yeah.
fact-checking initiatives, media literacy skills. They're trying to, vaccinate the public against propaganda.
So it's not just about showing the lies, it's about giving people the ability to spot them on their own.
Exactly. And third, Ressa starts speaking out globally, warning everyone about what's happening in the Philippines, connecting the dots between Duterte's tactics and this rise of authoritarianism all over the world.
And this is where Amal Clooney gets involved, right?
Absolutely. Clooney brings her legal knowledge and her global platform to the fight. She helps Ressa file cases against the Philippine government to fight these bad laws, to bring attention to journalists and activists who are being targeted.
So it's investigative journalism, it's public education, it's legal action, it's international advocacy. It's a whole new kind of fight.
Mm-hmm.
And they're figuring it out as they go.
And it takes a toll on Ressa. She's always facing arrest, dealing with all these legal problems, and that constant online hate.
It's hard to imagine the kind of strength that takes.
It's incredible. It shows how deep her commitment to truth, justice, and democracy really is.
So she's fighting back on all these fronts. She's building a global movement. She wins the Nobel Peace Prize. But that disinformation machine, it just keeps going. How do you even start to counter something that big?
It's a huge task. And there are no easy answers. But Ressa has some ideas about what we can do.
Okay, I'm listening. What can we do?
First, she wants us to be more aware of how we act online. We need to understand how social media tries to manipulate us, how it tries to keep us hooked, how it triggers our emotions.
So it's about stepping back, being more aware of how these platforms are working on us, like psychologically.
Yeah, exactly. She even suggests taking a break from social media sometimes, a digital detox to, clear your head.
I like that. It's so easy to get sucked in.
Second, she talks about how important critical thinking is. We can't just take in information without thinking. We have to question where it's coming from. We need to verify things before we share them. And we have to be skeptical of anything that seems too good to be true.
Like that old saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Exactly. And she even suggests checking out resources like, what was it called? Mindful Moments. It's an AI audiobook analysis channel on YouTube. It can help you break down complicated ideas and spot biases in the stuff you're reading.
Cool. I'll have to check it out.
Third, she says it's super important to support independent journalism. Journalists are like the front line in this fight for truth, and they're under attack everywhere. We need to subscribe to good news sources, donate to those investigative journalism groups, and stand up for press freedom when it's threatened.
So we had to put our money where our mouth is. Support the people who are doing the work of finding the truth.
Exactly. And fourth, she calls on all of us to be active citizens. We can't just watch as democracy gets weaker. We have to be involved in our communities. We have to hold our leaders accountable. And we have to speak up when things are wrong.
So it's about taking responsibility, not just for what we do online, but for how healthy our democracies are.
Right. And she reminds us that even small things can make a difference. Sharing a fact check, calling out a misleading post, even just talking to a friend or family member who's falling for some disinformation. It can have a ripple effect.
It's about taking those little steps, those little acts of courage. That can add up to a more informed, more engaged public. We left off with Maria Ressa, and she's facing this huge challenge. Bong Bong Marcos Jr., the dictator's son, wins the presidency. And it feels like everything she's been fighting for is just going up in smoke.
It's a real blow, for sure. Remember, Ressa's whole life has been about exposing the truth about the Marcos regime, the corruption, the human rights abuses, and now the son of that dictator is in power. And it's partly because of that same disinformation machine that Ressa's been fighting against.
It makes you wonder, can you even fight back against something that big, something that's woven into, the whole fabric of society?
And this is where Ressa's idea of the battle for reality becomes so important. She says that these authoritarian regimes, they get strong when they can control the story, when they can, change how people understand what's true.
We saw that with that Man with the Bomb article, right? How easy it is to twist facts to fit your agenda. But with Marcos Jr., it's not just one article. It's decades of rewriting history.
Exactly. The Marcos family, they've spent years trying to make their past look better. They've used their money and power to change what people think. Social media is a powerful tool for that. It lets them spread propaganda and target specific groups with their message.
This is where I start to feel a little hopeless, How do you fight a lie that everyone believes?
It's a huge challenge, yeah. But Ressa doesn't give up. She sees Marcos Jr.'s win not as a loss, but as a reason to fight even harder. Rappler goes even deeper with their investigative journalism. They keep exposing corruption and holding the government accountable.
But they're facing more pressure now, right? It must be even more dangerous.
Oh yeah, for sure. The legal battles get worse. The threats get scarier. Ressa has to make these tough choices about her own safety. She even thinks about leaving the Philippines, seeking asylum somewhere else.
I get it. It makes sense to want to protect yourself, to step away from all that danger.
But she decides to stay. She realizes that her voice, her being there in the Philippines, it matters more than ever. She becomes a symbol of resistance, a leader for those who won't be silenced.
That takes guts. Knowing the risks, knowing what can happen, and still choosing to fight.
And she's not just fighting for herself. She's fighting for, the soul of her country. She sees this as a fight for democracy, a fight to protect freedom, truth, and justice.
This reminds me of how her work affects the whole world. You said before that she was connecting Duterte to this global rise of authoritarianism.
Right. She's been warning everyone that what's happening in the Philippines, it's a sign of what's to come. She sees the weakening of democracies, the spread of disinformation, the way tech is being used to manipulate people. It's all happening everywhere. It's a threat to freedom everywhere.
So it's not just about the Philippines. It's about the future of democracy everywhere.
Exactly. And Ressa thinks the only way to fight this is through global cooperation. She wants all the democracies to unite. A big group of countries, organizations, individuals, all working together to defend freedom, protect human rights, and fight against authoritarianism.
This is where her idea for a new social contract for the digital age comes in, right?
Yeah.
She's saying we need new rules, new laws, new ways of thinking to deal with all this digital stuff.
Exactly. She's not just fighting the bad guys, she's coming up with solutions. She's pushing for big change. She wants to see these tech companies held responsible for the damage they cause, more transparency, more regulation. And she wants to see tech used to empower people, not to control them.
That's a big goal.
Yeah.
And it means we have to change how we think about things. We've been so focused on the good that tech can do, we haven't really thought about the bad.
And that bad stuff is real. Ressa's story is like a warning, a reminder that democracy is fragile, that we can't take it for granted, that we have to protect it, that we have to fight for the things we believe in.
This has been an amazing deep dive. Maria Ressa's story, it's both inspiring and scary. It's about courage, about resilience, about fighting for the truth when lies are being used as weapons.
And her story's not over. Ressa's still fighting, and so should we. We all have a part to play in defending democracy, protecting the truth, and making a better future.
So what can we do to make a difference? What are some actual things we can do?
Be careful about the information you see. Question your sources. Check your facts. And don't share anything unless you know it's true. Support good journalism. Subscribe to reliable news sources. Donate to those investigative journalism groups. And defend freedom of the press whenever you can. And most importantly, get involved. Get active in your community, hold your leaders accountable, and speak up when you see something wrong.
It's a reminder that even small things can make a difference. The fight for truth and democracy, it's a team effort, and we're all on the team.
Maria Ressa shows us that even when things seem impossible, even when it feels like everything's falling apart, there's still hope. We can fight back. We can make a difference. We can build a better world.
This deep dive has been so eye-opening, and I hope it's made you want to learn more about Maria Ressa and this fight for truth and democracy. Her book, How to Stand Up to a Dictator, is a great place to start. Remember, knowledge is power, and together we can make a difference.
Make sure to subscribe and share this episode with your friends. We're constantly exploring new and challenging ideas, things that make you question what you think you know.
And we've included a purchase link for the book in the show notes, just for you. Keep those minds sharp and never stop questioning. Until next time.